Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dodgeball podcast. In this lost episode, I decided to go ahead and release the first 40 minutes of the Andrew Ketchum interview I had a couple weeks ago. And yes, it actually was longer, where basically we went into the events of the Combine, because at the time of the recording, he had just found out he had made Team USA. So because that alone took about 40 minutes, I thought maybe I could use that as a separate episode to recap the Combine. However, as I've said in some of the more recent episodes that have been released, life got in the way, I went on vacation, and just time got away from me. So I wasn't able to fully recap the women's version. But because I didn't want to have that be the single standalone episode, I decided to wait and bring in Bryanna London to help give me the women's version of the Combine, just so I can produce kind of more of like a whole recap. Granted, it's not going to cover everything, and it's definitely an incredible ask for both of them to kind of recap such an epic event, but I did want to have something to show for it. So here's a quick idea of what went down, starting with the interview with Bryanna. Alrighty, so here with me now to kind of help me recap what took place from the women's perspective is Bryanna London. Bree, thanks so much for hopping on and being willing to kind of lend your experience, even though that was like a month ago. First off, just congrats on making the team. I want to ask, like, how does it feel? Has the feeling changed at all since it was first announced?
Not really. Like, I've been there before, so I'm just excited to be back. And we just had our first practice yesterday, so I'm just excited to get prepped for the tournament.
Gotcha. Yesterday being what, July 10th or July 11th, so
or 10th, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it shows that this is a little dated, but I guess maybe we can move into the practice a little bit later. But first of all, what was the overall experience like? Like, what was the combine like? I did get to hear Andrew Ketchum's perspective, but what was it like for your point of view, just overall?
It was pretty cool. Meeting people from different regions, a lot of people I've never even seen before, all coming together, and the way they did the teams, I got on a couple teams with people I've never played before, and some people I've never met before. So it's just cool to play against the best of each region. Our side was dominated by West. We had, I think, 20-something players from the West, so more than half the players I did know. But for the players that I didn't know, it was just cool to see who else is out there, who else is playing. I'm hoping to see some of them at Nationals in a few weeks.
Definitely. So did it help at all being, I don't want to say like West saturated, but just playing alongside people that you're familiar with already? Like, did that impact how you played at all, or what was that like?
I think it was definitely an advantage, just because, and then we're also all familiar with each other. So we're playing with each other regularly in leagues, and then when we have tournaments. So I feel like it did give us a slight advantage. But then also you had more of a chance of having someone on your team that you either know or you may have even played with previously.
Gotcha. In those situations, did you find yourself like gravitating towards them a little bit more to kind of work together, or were you able to kind of meld with whoever was thrown in your lineup?
I think a little of both. I had a couple teams where I actually had played with everybody before. And for the teams that I didn't, it was pretty easy to just kind of blend them in because we already knew more than half the team. So if there was a team where four of us all knew each other, the other two, it was really easy to throw them in and figure out where they go to make the team successful.
Gotcha. Was that, would it be fair to say like there's a lot of willingness to play as a team, even though you have individuals from all over the place, all competing for a very limited amount of slots? Or like, what was that like?
I felt like every team I was on, basically, we had like a couple minutes before that particular round started. There was like 4 different teams you were on, to kind of meet with your team and just figure out your game plan. And I felt like every time each team was very willing to listen to each other and kind of figure out where they should go for that team, and people were trading off. So like if there was a team where 2 people like to play right corner, maybe one game one person would do it and the next game the other person would do it. And everyone was very willing to kind of do what was necessary.
Gotcha. So there wasn't any like, no, I'm left corner, I'm going to stay here. People were willing to kind of rotate and give other people a shot to step up.
Yeah, I didn't have anybody on my team that was like that. Everyone was willing to play wherever. I think that's important for Team USA to be able to play anywhere that's needed.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point too, because my other question was going to be like, there wasn't any like sense of like people being cutthroat, like, you know, I'm just going to worry about myself, we're going to make sure that I get noticed. I guess that really wouldn't fly, right? Like that wouldn't be something that the scouts would be looking at, because the idea is to play as a cohesive team.
Yeah, I think that would have been looked at negatively if somebody was just like running up to the line and throwing all their balls away, or not meeting in the huddle or whatnot.
Yeah, definitely would strike against you. Were you nervous at all? You mentioned like you've been in this situation before, somewhat. So, what was that like for you? Getting ready and preparing and just being there.
I was 100% nervous.
Yeah.
Be surprised if anybody there wasn't. I think just because this year it's a completely new system. Now they have scouts, and it's 4 plus the tiebreaker, and you don't know exactly what they're looking for. So just like overthinking going into it. But I mean, I assumed we would be playing, and I assumed there would be some sort of drills involved. So I just tried to focus on my game and just remember that it's just dodgeball. I do it all the time, and try to on the day keep the nerves down.
Gotcha. Did you do any like special training for this specific event or for the combine?
I didn't do anything specific for the combine besides just making sure I played foam regularly. I mean, overall, like I've just leading up to it, just worked on individual things I felt I needed to work on.
Gotcha. So maybe a little more focus on those certain things. Actually, so I want to ask, do you have a ball preference? Being from the West and all?
Honestly, I really like both foam and no sting. It's hard to decide which one is my favorite.
Gotcha.
And then I actually enjoy cloth. I've played it a couple times and wish that they had it like more around LA. The only ball I don't really like is 8.5, but maybe that's just because I don't play it enough.
Gotcha. So it wasn't so much of a transition for you going to foam. It was kind of natural for you.
Yeah, and I've been playing a lot more regularly this year. There's a couple foam leagues that have popped up, and foam tournaments are happening more often, so I get to play more.
Gotcha. So you got your reps in. What was the format like? You kind of talked about earlier where they kind of just threw you into random teams, but was there like what was the structure, I guess, like from the second you guys got there and checked in after warming up and playing? Can you kind of walk me through that?
Yeah, they gave us a sheet that laid out all the teams for each round. So there were 4 rounds. The first 3 rounds were supposed to last an hour, and the last round was the team you were on. You would play a 40-minute match that emulates the WDBF format. So you played for each round, you played each team once. So there was 6 total teams. So you would play 5 matches with that same team, and you were playing just one game. It wasn't like timed or best 2 out of 3. It was just one match versus each team. And when you weren't playing, you were doing drills on the other court.
So you're active the entire hour then?
Yeah. They like every once in a while you could like peek over and watch a game, but for the most part they wanted you, if you weren't playing, to be doing drills.
Gotcha. That was one of the things that Ketchum mentioned was just like there was a lot of like there's an endurance factor. So I'm assuming they were trying to like make you guys tired and just kind of see like who can actually last the whole time.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, they try to make sure you were constantly doing something.
Did that impact you at all, or are you used to playing marathon dodgeball?
I think after playing in the classic, any tournament is not too bad in terms of endurance.
So Kelly, hashtag Kelly tried to kill us, actually maybe helped you guys get stronger and ready for it. That's cool. It's a good side effect. What would, I guess, was there anything that was just completely foreign to you? Like drills is really cool. Just the whole process of being invited, of having an actual combine. Did anything throw you off that day that you're just like, well, I wasn't expecting that?
Not really. Not really. It was just you're playing games, and when you're not playing games, they had like speed, working on the rush, like how fast can you get to the ball, throwing accuracy. It wasn't anything like out of the ordinary. Besides, maybe if you had people on your team you didn't know, and you had to figure out how to work with them.
Gotcha. And I know it's like several weeks ago, but was there anybody that just really stood out in your mind, aside from obviously who was picked, but anything that just you can still recall from that day?
Let's see. That's hard because I have to like think back.
Like you have to think of past like round 3 and past the practice and all that other stuff, but
I just know like it was hard to like see people I didn't have on my team because when I wasn't playing, I was doing drills, but just I can go off people who were on my team that stood out. Like Paige, who I'd never played with before, was on one of my teams, and she was just nailing people left and right. We were just feeding her balls. And I know when I played with Ashley, she was catching everything, and I heard from other people throughout the day that she was having a great day. There was, I forget her name. One of the girls from the East was catching everything. I forget her name. I feel bad, but there's definitely like murmurs of people who were playing well throughout the day, but then a lot of people were playing well throughout the day.
Right. So it's kind of like, I mean, it's a given. You're getting like the best of the best out there playing, but you can kind of catch like an idea of who's doing it specifically well during that day once you line up with them, or like you said, there's like those murmurs kind of going back and forth.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because again, it's after the fact, but I mean, clearly the ones that had the best day and the best showing were the ones that made the team. So that one's kind of like a gimme. But the only other question I really had was just, what are your thoughts overall on next steps? You mentioned that you had practice yesterday, or maybe 2 days ago. How'd that go?
It was all right. We kind of threw it together last minute. A couple of people out of town, but we fortunately have I can only go off the women's side. We have 10 people out of the 15 who either live in LA or can get to LA to do practice. So it'll work well with us. We're hoping to secure a gym I think we already have the gym on Tuesdays where we can just scrimmage against other women in the area. It's great that we can start working together. We don't have to wait until the week of the tournament for everyone to get here. I mean, obviously there's people who don't live here, but at least for a majority of the team, we can practice together, which is nice.
It's awesome. So you guys are going to have plenty of opportunities to stay sharp and practice and make sure you're ready to go. And was it October, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I don't think they've announced the official dates yet.
Oh, okay. But it's going to be in October, do you know?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Very cool. Do you know if there's any plans to practice like together everybody, or is it going to be like probably going to happen in October?
I mean, it's going to be hard. I think a lot of us will be in Chicago for UDC, but we're going to be playing while we're there. So I find it hard for us to find time to do a practice. And then it's like the same for nationals. We'll all be at nationals, but we're already playing the 3-day tournament. So at least like we could meet up as a team while we're in those cities together and just
Get to know each other,
have a
hang out.
discussion and figure out everything.
Gotcha. Very cool. Well, that's all I have. Definitely appreciate you hopping on and just kind of giving your perspective, at least from the women's angle, just for a couple minutes. I'm sure if it was like the week of, we could probably talk about it a little bit more and delve into it, but at least wanted to cover some aspect of it, especially because when I interviewed Ketchum, like there's 40 minutes of him talking about the combine, so I wanted to be able to at least kind of pair the two together. But do you have like any shout outs or any last like thoughts or anything you want to mention that we might not have covered?
I mean, I think overall it's the new process is definitely a step in the right direction. And I'm really glad that they changed it and it's more transparent. So I hope they, no matter how the teams do, I mean, obviously I'm hoping that both get gold, but no matter how the teams do, I hope they continue to try and improve that system over the next few years.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say it's this whole process has been really exciting, and without getting into like all the drama about how it was in the past, to see it have that refinement, to see USA Dodgeball come out, to go from like scouts to invitations to national combine to this, it's really cool. So it's very awesome. Cool. Well, again, that's all I have. Congratulations. And again, thank you so much for hopping on. And I mean, not to sound creepy, but I mean, I'll be watching. So it'd be cool to see how it goes.
Thanks. I hope we bring gold back to the US.
Definitely. So that was a quick version of the women's division. And this is going to be the interview with Andrew Ketchum, which we're just going to cut right into starting now. First and foremost, congrats on making Team USA. How does that feel?
Thank you. It really feels incredible. There was 40 of the best players like out there, and to how they went through with the selection process, I really do not envy any of them. Because I'm sure, as like people seen today, Marks went into hiding essentially. But then later on in the day, something that just he posted today was, if you want feedback, we'll give you the notes for people who made the team, people who didn't make the team. So like I think that's huge.
That's cool.
Which is something that we've never really had in dodgeball. It's like very rarely can you do you have somebody just watching you play. Other than like people in a tournament, it's like I see this about you, but like that's because they're playing. This is the first time where it's like I have notes on you playing all day. So I think that's really cool. So it makes making a team that much sweeter, and it really feels like I showed up, I played well, and so it's nice to have that feeling that like there's you show up, you play, you'll make the team type thing if you play really well. So it was a cool just to feel that something to go for. That like nobody had a safe spot. You had to show up, and I think that was a big deal. So it felt good to have the validation that I showed up, and I'm very excited about the team and excited to hopefully go out there and win gold.
Right, like you were rewarded based on merit, on skill, and not on politics or without getting too crazy into how things used to be. Yeah, I mean, like you said, you showed up, you did your best, and that was the result. And that was the result for how many other people tried out? 40 for the other?
Yeah, so 40 people tried out, 15 people total. There are on the team, there are 9 starters and 6 alternates. Yeah.
Oops.
And one of the alternates, I just want to give a shout out to this kid. I think he's 16 or something.
What?
Yeah, this is a kid from the South. That kid's got a bright future. Our very first game in scrimmages came down to him in like a 1-on-2 or a 1-on-1 or something. I forget who was throwing at him, and he just like threw his ball to the side and just caught the ball. And I was playing with Tim at the time, and we both kind of just looked at each other and like, this kid's the real deal. Okay.
Nice.
So I think that'll be an awesome experience for him, just being there and stuff. And I just hope that like, he sticks with it, and like that's when it comes down to it, that's the future of dodgeball, is all the young players we have.
It's
because I feel like over the next like 5 years, we're gonna phase out a lot of players. But so it's good to start building up a future.
It's weird hearing you say that, because that's how I look at you, as you're the future. So that's incredible though. Imagine, because you get it. Like you can kind of look back when you first came into the scene, and we'll definitely get into that a little bit later. But when you first got into the scene, you didn't have the transparency that is USA Dodgeball. You didn't have like this. This is new. This is, as of today, we announced
Right.
Team USA. That was done in a very scrupulous manner. There were scouts. There was people that were objective and not biased, and it was a well thought out process. And no matter how many times we try to nudge Mark for like, give us something, with our little gifts and being silly, it was done very professionally. So imagine seeing this through like the first time though, like that 16-year-old guy. What was his name?
It's his last name's Hashimoto. There's two of them. But I'm a terrible person to forget what his actual first name is.
Let me see if I can potentially pull it up. But imagine being, is it Elijah?
Yep, Elijah.
Yeah, so imagine being Elijah Hashimoto. This is your first experience of like competitive international dodgeball. Like imagine 10 years from now when he's like, not even 20 years from now when he's my age, like what is he gonna leave when the scene? What's the scene gonna look like then? But and
it's like even with me, like over the past like 3 years when I came into the international scene, because I came in 2015, just like the massive growth, the massive change, and that's just 3 years,
right?
Let alone like when this kid is gonna be my age playing dodgeball, which is weird for me to start saying, but now that I'm 25 now, which is also weird for me to say, because I feel like everybody still is like, oh, you're 18-year-old Ketchum,
right?
But it's like this weird. So it's weird for me now, like looking back at that and like being like, okay, like, this kid's the future. It's cool.
It's cool, but it's kind of for me, for having been in it for so dang long, it's good to see that something that I loved and contributed a lot to and played a lot to and spent a lot of time on isn't going to just evaporate. It's going to continue. It's going to be amazing. Like there's some kind of like peace with that. So it's incredible to see all the changes and want to get behind it 100%. And I wanted to kind of maybe not open up a can of worms with this one, but when I asked you how did it feel, it's kind of like a two-part question. One, obviously awesome, but two, 2015 Team USA, you guys won. You had your tattoos. The number 9, was it?
Yep.
And so
we all have the Roman numeral 9 tattooed on our wrist.
Right, and that was you guys, that was a stacked, scary team, but at the time that was the best that the US had to offer. And when, for whatever reasons that we won't get into too much, when the selection process changed or didn't continue to pump out the best, you were, if I recall, a really large proponent about doing it the right way. So I kind of know the answer to this question, but I mean, how satisfying is it to see that finally come into fruition in your lifetime as a competitive player and have it come full circle for you?
Yeah, it's huge. And it's also a very big thing to like kind of feel like we're part of that movement. I know that just with talking with other countries, some of them didn't view it that way. But so we kind of had to deal with a lot of flack from all the other countries too. 'Cause there was a lot of, like over the course of those 2 years, there was a lot of, like bickering back and forth, fighting about this, just threads on Dodgeball Family that never ended.
Oh yeah.
And it's hard to explain that, like, we're doing this for a good reason. Like, you guys might not see this, but like, we have our own internal struggles with our organizations and with everything. And the answers came out. All the answers came out. Like, this process, the second they announced it, we were all on board. And we all kind of announced that as a team, because like, we're like, no matter what happens, even if we win this year, like, that year was special, I think, to us, and to USA Dodgeball in general, because that was the first time men's had won gold. And that year we double golded, and it was at home as well. So like, that year will always be special, and every team is different. But looking back at it, like, the tattoo I have on my wrist means so much more now, is because, we helped start a movement. But it honestly, like, us sitting out would not have meant anything if it wasn't for, Jake and Mark and Nicole and all those organizing, like, actually doing the organizing. We just sat back and complained about it. Like when it comes down to it, like, it's we all wanted to be players, and we all wanted a process that players could enjoy.
Right.
And we essentially just, like, we expressed all of what we thought and all of our ideas to the organizers, and they took it over and they ran with it and made it better than anything we've ever seen. So big shout out to all them.
For
and
sure.
Just the remaining WDBF organization. Like Dwayne, who is now the president of WDBF, when I was getting back into foam, he sent me foam balls, like, from semi-Canadian foam balls, which I still have. And like, even if they get ripped, I'm always going to keep them, because like, that was just such a kind gesture from him. It's like, hey, welcome back type thing. You need to remember how to play type thing,
Get after it. So
yeah.
Dwayne, last name?
I think I'm going to butcher it.
Wazinski. Okay.
Yeah. But just any time I've talked to him, he's always been the nicest guy. And he really looks out for everybody. And I think he's an excellent choice to be the president.
Yeah, and so he oversees the World Dodgeball Federation, the entire thing.
Yep.
And he obviously knows you on some kind of personal level then, to be sending you balls and kind of encouraging you from the corner, so to speak.
Yeah, no, we kind of reached out to him, like, when things were all going on. There's a lot of, like, behind the scenes, just everybody trying to make sure that everything would work out.
Right.
And just talking through things. And he was always a big, he was always in our corners with what it felt like.
That's awesome.
So it was a very nice feeling, that the president had our back. So
that's very cool. Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to protest when nobody's on your side, but when you actually start generating momentum and you get people that are like, hey man, I feel for you, or hey, we're on your side, or we're going to work towards making that change, that's just incredible. And that's where the best organizations are coming from. Like Elite Dodgeball, came from the NDL just being completely just turned off to being able to listen to feedback, and again, not trying to open up a whole nother thread of mudslinging there, but there's a reason why things are getting better and they're refining better, and it's because people are listening and people are taking matters into their own hands, so to speak, and it's incredible.
And at the same time, I don't want to take away from what they started with WDBF, because that platform was started,
right?
And it was created from that didn't exist before.
Definitely.
But it's just this is just it's evolving in a way that's the best for the sport. So shout out to everybody involved with starting it, but also a big shout out to everybody who's continuing to evolve it and being open to feedback and open to the community, the worldwide dodgeball community as a whole.
Exactly, just carrying that torch and making it brighter.
Yep.
Without sounding too cheesy. Cool. Well, obviously there's still a lot to talk about, and unfortunately, because I was out for 2 weeks, I'm still behind. Hopefully the South recap episode might come just before or right after this, but that being said, I'm not going to have much time to cover the combine, so I kind of wanted to spend at least another maybe 15-20 minutes, however long it takes, to kind of have you walk me through the experience and kind of just give your perspective. I know it might be limited, But let's start with it. So you guys got invited to this combine, right? That's how it began?
Yep. Yeah, it started off with players got invites. It was a really cool way they did it, which, I've also never seen, so shout out to them. Excuse me. Like, we all got letters in the mail. And then followed up to that, we got emails. But just the time and effort to send out these letters to everybody. And, like, they look awesome. Like, I have it framed up here. Just because it's a cool thing to, keep track of and look at. And
it's professional.
Yep. So just then, like, I knew things were going in the right direction. Leading up to the combine, though, I was a little, or going into the combine, I was a little worried because we had found out that they only had 3 courts for 80 people.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah. So we're not even 40 males and then 40 female players then.
Correct. Yep.
Wow.
So 80 players. There's 3 courts. So I was a little hesitant going into that because I was kind of like, okay, like, do they already have their team in mind? Like, do they, like, what's going to happen? Then I get there and sort of everything changed. The way they did it, which really was awesome, and I think they wanted to see players continuously play and keep playing and keep playing and keep playing, and they reiterated on their speeches. They said everybody's on a blank slate. You got to keep playing. We want to see what you can do. Show us what you can do every step of the way today. Nice. Like, forget whatever teams you come from. Forget whatever you've done before. Like everybody's on a clean slate now, which I think meant a lot to everybody there. Because everybody's just posting Team LA, like, bring this team back, yada yada yada.
Right.
And for, like, anybody else, that's probably discouraging. I mean, I was on that team, so I can't. For me, I was like, I don't know how that felt. You know what I mean? But, like, any other player coming in, like what if that was discouraging? Like what your mental state would be, type thing. So I think that was awesome, just to hear that from Mark and from everybody. Like doesn't matter, nothing matters today. Play your heart out.
Gotcha.
So on the first court, and I really, like, I can't speak to the women's side at all because I was so laser just focused on everything over there. Like, I don't know what they were doing. I wasn't watching their games. Like, I just went there to play, which was a really cool feeling because, we wanted to just be players and we got to be players.
No reffing, no captaining, just you're there to play, nope. Show them what you got.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So on the first court, we did games. They split us into teams. There were 4 different rounds for each hour, and throughout that hour, we played multiple games on that first court. On the second court, we played we did drills, which was throwing at targets, doing 1-on-1 situations, 2-on-1 situations, 2-on-2 situations, 3-on-2 situations. Speed. Radar. They brought out a radar gun. They brought out. They timed people on the rush. They just wanted to see people, and the biggest thing I think is it's at certain times they didn't feel like they were watching on the second court. So, I mean, I could be completely wrong, but regardless, like, you kept playing and you kept going because what they want eventually, at the end, because the world tournament is completely different from anything else, like from any other tournament you play anywhere else. UDC max amount of time in a game is 9 minutes. 3-minute game, 3-minute game, 3-minute game. Maybe you have some overtime in there. These games are 40 minutes long. It's 20 minutes on one side, 20 minutes on the other side. And a lot of people are not used to that, that continuous play. It's like 2 out of 3, like, if it's 1-1, it comes down to that next game. It's like, play your heart out right now. If it's 1-1 and you have 30 minutes left, you have to play your heart out, and you have to keep playing your heart out for another 30 minutes,
So are you racking up just as many points as possible within that time frame?
Yeah, so at the end of that time frame, at the end of the 40 minutes, whoever has the most points wins that match.
Okay.
But it goes back and forth. So, like, every game matters, every game counts, and you have to play smart throughout that whole time. And, switching from different rule sets changes things up a little bit. So we took a break. They gave us food, which is awesome. There was a pickle juice pitcher or gallon jug of pickle juice, I think that Stidham brought.
Nice.
I love pickle juice, and so I was stoked. So that was cool. They took our pictures, which was a cool experience. We all got Combine shirts, they're awesome shirts, and that's also a really cool memento to have. And then we came back and we went back to doing more drills, and this is where they put us in our teams, and they were like, this is the team that you're going to play a 40-minute game with. So on the second court, we started doing scrimmages between the teams. Like, you were locked into your team, so there would go a men's would play, women's would play, men's would play, women's would play. But on the first court, you were playing a full 40-minute game, so they got to see you after you've been playing all day, doing drills all day. They got to see like this is where let's see what you're made of type thing. So I thought that was awesome.
So, well, real quick, pickle juice, that's for cramping, right? Just in case no one else understands. It's like a little secret.
Yes. A lot of people don't know that, but apparently it's supposed to help with muscle recovery and stop you from cramping.
Yep. I'll be taking that with me because one of my uncles told me about it because cramping's a thing now. But yeah, just a quick takeaway. It's good to know. So endurance then, that's a factor that most people probably don't think about then.
Yeah.
Because you're playing 40-minute games, and those are, how many games would you say you have average in an international tournament per day? Does that vary?
So it varies. So I mean, you have, I believe it's round robin wise. It's split up into 4 games a day, which is still 160 minutes of dodgeball. So You got like 2.5 hours of dodgeball, and in those games you can play up to anywhere. Like, we had a game, I think we were won 23-0 on somebody, our year. So that's 23 games you played in there, regardless of how quick they went. Like, you're rushing, you're playing, like you're going. And then some of the games are a lot more intense. So you have to play your heart out for 40 minutes because when it comes down to it, the round robin games matter because only the top 4 teams go into playoffs.
Wow.
So that's where the first game that you play your first game, if you win that, you go to the finals. If you lose that, you play for bronze. So throughout that whole weekend, it's a lot of dodgeball. Worlds is the only time where I've actually thrown my arm out. In between the semifinals and the finals, because the way it used to be was it would go back to back. Like, you'd play, then the women would play, then the finals would play. Now they do it days apart. But in between the semifinals and the finals game, we encased my entire arm with ice.
Dang.
And I just laid there for 40 minutes. And then I said, pretty much just popped some Advil, went into the next game, and I was like, this is the finals, this is it, I'm throwing it out. And you'll see in some of the pictures, it looks like I'm leaning. It's because I legitimately cannot lift my arm.
Wow.
Yeah. So it takes a huge physical toll on you, and it's at that kind of stage too, it takes an emotional toll on you as well.
Well, I was going to say, obviously elite, super competitive, but this is the world stage. You're not Titan, you're not Rise, you're Team USA. Every game better matter. You better fight to the better end because you've got America backing you up and wanting you to do well. So you got to be emotionally strong, obviously. Do you think emotions were tested at all during this day, during the combine?
I don't think. I think the emotional effect was there just because everybody was like, I'm playing for a spot on the team. Like, I got here, I need to get to the next step.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, but try that compared to the next level, whereas you're in that semifinal game, your entire family is there, the rest of your country is watching, and now that we have with the live streams, everybody who likes dodgeball around the world is essentially watching.
That's incredible.
It's that factor is something that I think makes or breaks people. So it's and especially the fact that this year it'll be at home again. Before it was Vegas, but this is at home, LA, rest of my family's in California. Rest of my girlfriend's family's in California. It's just crazy to think about how many people are going to come to this.
And that it's just piling on too, because you have like I don't want to say the first proven Team USA, but you have like the first Team USA under this brand new process. You want to make sure that it works, and it's just there's just a lot to factor in when you're playing against other countries. I didn't think that they would deliberately somehow be able to replicate like stress and emotions. I just wondered if that, and you already answered it though, but like that's you're there against like 39 of the nation's best, so you're kind of getting a feel for like, can people handle the pressure, especially under being just drained. Were there any other, so in addition to like the scrimmages, the drills, the scenarios, and the long drawn out day, any other events that they used to measure or assess you guys on?
That was it. I'm not sure what else they looked at. Like, I don't know if they looked at film or anything, but they, like previous games. Like I know that the scouts were at events throughout the year, leading up to that, which helped you get to the combine.
Right.
But I don't know if they took those situations into account as well in the selection process, or if it was like, you show up at the combine, you show us what you got, or you're not playing type thing.
Gotcha.
But Mark is actually, he just recently posted that he was like, if you made the team or if you didn't make the team, I will give you the evaluations, which I thought was awesome, because that's something that Dodgeball's never had. Like, you've never been able to like know, like, here's this is what I needed to get better at. This is what I did. This is what I can improve on. So I think that's one of the best things to come out of the combine, because everybody who didn't make the team, everybody played amazing. It's, that's what you have that to strive for. What like you to work on for you, or how it works into your game type thing, because everybody's game's different. So you just have to know how to. But now like how to maximize your game.
Yeah, and I like that that's a great asset to have, because it's like objective criticism. And so if you don't make Team USA, you're not making excuses like, oh, I didn't make it because I'm not friends with so-and-so, or whatever crazy, ideas that you can possibly put in your mind to think of why you didn't make it. You have solid criticism and a reason why you didn't make it, but also how you can get better for next year. So that's all incredible. Like the entire process from, announcing it to letters to actually at the event, that's so cool. And then the way it was announced too, like those pictures of Team USA look pretty sweet. It's just all very well professionally packaged, and it's just so cool to kind of watch from the outside. Was this all one day?
Yeah, it was one day.
Gotcha.
And then afterwards, there was a big bar right next to the hotel that everybody was staying at.
Okay, I was gonna ask if there was like a social factor that took place.
Yeah, that was wild after. But I think the biggest mental stress I had of the day, this is a pretty funny story. So I was staying with Brody, Angelique, and Rolina. First thing I did, I put my sweatshirt on backwards. And I was like, this is how the day is gonna go.
It's begun.
And then I locked the keys in the car. This is an hour and a half before we're supposed to be there. Because I rented a car. We were going to leave early, go get food, water, snacks, everything that we need. Lock the keys in the car. And I'm kind of just like, and all of our stuff is in the car. So like now I don't just feel like I'm like, oh, what about me? I'm like, there are 3 other people here who are trying out, and all their stuff's in the car because I locked the keys in the car.
Yikes.
We called the rental car company. They said it'd be an hour. We called AAA. They said it'd be an hour. So we called them both, and we're like, whoever gets here first, whatever. At some point, I got super impatient, and then called this company down the street. They're like, we'll be there in 15 minutes. Funny enough, AAA gets there early. They show up at the same time as this guy. So I was just like this whole morning, but so we're like 30 minutes out from the start of it. So I have to like gather myself, because that was pretty stressful. Like I'm like, this is the biggest tournament. I need to be there on time, and all of our stuff's in the car, and I'm in sandals. Like I don't have my shoes. My shoes are in the car. So that was just it's kind of funny though, because I was like after all that happened, I was like, that's all the stress out of my day. That's gone. Like I'm just gonna go play now.
Right. It can't get any worse.
It was funny how I was at the same time I didn't want to say it couldn't get any worse because I could always get brodied again. But that was just kind of a funny start to that whole day.
Right. What do you mean by getting brodied?
Just somebody using alien powers and the ball just magically stops in their arms as
Yeah. Oh man, that was still one of my most favorite clips of all time. Oh my god, that was great. I thought you meant like he got like deathly ill that one time or something.
Oh no.
You're talking in terms of like what happens to Andrew Ketchum is getting brodied.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But funny enough, Brody has to have some like there's something in the universe that just like ridiculous things happen around him. So I forget who it was, but somebody was next to Brody and had a double catch in one of our games. Caught the first ball in his hands, and then like very similarly to how like Brody caught mine, the ball just stopped between his two forearms and had a double catch. And I had looked to the left, and I look back up, and all of a sudden everybody's losing their mind and cheering and stuff, and I'm just like, what just happened? And it was and then somebody's like, he just got a double catch, and I was like, Brody's over here. This seems right.
This is accurate. This is as it should be. All is well. Weird, but well. Well, aside from the really crappy start to your morning, obviously you shook it off. Were there any other moments where you're just like, I don't want to say like you're under trial, but did the rest of the day just go pretty smoothly for you? Like were you pretty much solid, catching, lighting people up and catching, or how do you feel like you did overall? Do you feel like that was your best performance under the circumstances, or?
Yeah, no, that was I've been since round one. I realized I was like I'm slow now. I'm not moving like I was before. So like I've been trying to like rework my game. Before I could just get away with like sitting and trying to catch a ball in 8.5 or whatever. Like I could I don't have to move because I can pick one of these out and I can like catch it out. Foam is a completely different story. Like those balls are not coming together. It's hard to track multiple foam balls at once. Like you have to be able to dodge and be mobile. So I've been really working on that. So it was nice to see, and a couple people, it was nice to hear from other people as well, because a couple people told me like, you look nimble out there, you look quick, like you're moving, you're dodging. So that was, I felt like that, just kind of everything coming together. Like that was some of the best dodgeball I've played in a long time.
Right.
And it felt good that it all kind of came together on that day.
Nice. And a good day to do so, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's going to be one of the more pivotal ones for you. Well, cool. So last question I want to ask about the combine before we move on to the actual interview. What happens next for you guys? Are you guys like in a group chat talking to each other? Are there going to be practices, or is it kind of just up in the air still, more to follow?
Yeah, so more to follow because I don't even know. I haven't checked my email, so I don't know if there's anything there. But we did make a group chat. We're all talking. We're all cracking jokes. I see Joe and I are making bad jokes that nobody likes, but
nice.
It's apparently the AZ humor is dry. Haha.
Haha.
But yeah, so we're all talking. We've all congratulated each other. We've talked to other people. I think today has just been it's been a wild ride. It's been really cool. Going forward, I'm not sure, but I'm sure that we'll get some practices set up. A lot of us are regionally close to each other, so I know that, and there most likely there'll be some fundraisers. I would assume more just foam tournaments around. So we'll definitely get chances to play together in practice.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, yeah, I mean that's huge. Congratulations to you. I know that means a ton to make this accomplishment happen, even though you're already a world champion. It's exciting. So I appreciate you giving me your input on that. So there you have a rather limited recap of the combine that took place quite a few weeks ago that helped produce the very awesome looking men's and women's Team USA teams. I know I say this after just about every episode, but I am truly excited to see how this plays out. It is just the process has been nothing short of awesome and professional, and I think everything we want to see in terms of selecting the nation's best and just testing them. Like how can they play together? How can they live up to the endurance and the hype and all this good stuff? And it's just awesome. And I'm excited to see how it turns out, and definitely want to be a little more timely with my recaps of these history-making events. That being said, thank you again, Andrew and Bryanna, for providing your perspective on what went down, especially weeks after the fact. I know it's quite an undertaking, as I mentioned in the opening, but I did want to cover it in some capacity rather than just let that time go to waste. Also, big thank you to Markel Stokes for nudging me once again this past weekend during the West Region Round 3 tournament to ensure that this does not go to waste in my laptop. So thanks again, man, for the nudge there. For everyone else, I hope you enjoyed what we were able to produce of the Combine recap. And as always, your feedback, criticism, comments, suggestions, concerns, complaints, anything is welcome. It's all fair game. Again, depending on when this releases, have a great rest of your week and your weekend, and we'll see you next time. So, 3. Oh, let me breathe for a second. Good Lord, breathing is the thing that you have to do for life.